It is 0300 a.m. in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. There is no moon, there are no stars, just an infinite suffocating black void that merges the sea and the sky into one terrifying canvas. Suspended in this darkness 2,000 feet above the water is a pilot strapped into the ejection seat of a $100 million F-35C fighter jet. He is low on fuel. He is physically exhausted, his body dehydrated from a 6-hour patrol. And he is looking for his home, but his home is not a stationary city. It is a tiny, moving speck of steel drifting in the chaotic waves miles below. From this altitude, the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower looks no bigger than a postage stamp. And tonight, thanks to a winter storm, that postage stamp is pitching violently, rising and falling 20 feet with every swell. The pilot has to do the impossible. He has to drop his 20-ton machine out of the sky at 150 miles per hour and hook a steel cable that is only 3 inches thick. To help him, there is a device on the deck called the Fresnel lens, the meatball. It is a column of lights. If the center light is high, he misses the wires. If it is low, he crashes into the back of the ship, creating a fireball that will kill dozens of his shipmates. This is not a scene from a Hollywood movie. This is a Tuesday night. It is the most terrifying few seconds in professional aviation, a controlled crash that exerts forces so violent they can detach retinas. And it is the only way to get back to the most dangerous zip code on Earth. Welcome aboard the carrier. Forget what you think you know about floating cities. This isn't a luxury cruise ship with guns. It is a claustrophobic industrial labyrinth designed for one single brutal purpose, war. Tonight we are bypassing the glossy recruitment ads. We are going to show you the dirt, the grime, the sleepless nights, and the staggering cost of American naval supremacy. We will explore the secret hierarchy of the crew, the nuclear fire that burns below the waterline, and the psychological toll of living in a steel box for 9 months straight. We are going to count the cost of every screw, every meal, and every drop of sweat to answer the question: is this $13 billion Leviathan actually worth it? Let's reframe what you are looking at. You are not looking at a boat. You are looking at a sovereign piece of American territory that has severed all ties with the land. The sheer logistics of keeping this Leviathan alive are mind-bending. Imagine taking a small town of 5,000 people, the population of a typical American suburb, and putting them inside a high-security nuclear power plant. Now shake that plant with hurricane-force winds and demand that it operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, without a single second of downtime. The infrastructure required here rivals that of a major metropolis. The ship has its own television station broadcasting internal propaganda and news. It has its own daily newspaper. It has its own police force, the master-at-arms, who patrol the corridors and manage the brig, a jail for sailors who break the code. It has a hospital with operating rooms capable of performing brain surgery while the floor is tilting 30 degrees. It even has its own zip code. When you send a letter here, you aren't mailing it to a physical location. You are mailing it to a moving target that does not want to be found. But unlike a city, this environment is actively trying to kill you. The first thing a new sailor notices isn't the grandeur or the patriotism, it's the smell. A carrier has a unique aggressive scent, a permanent mixture of JP5 jet fuel, deep fryer grease, ozone from the electronics, and the body odor of 5,000 people sharing the same recycled air. You can't wash it out of your clothes. After a month, you don't even smell it anymore. It becomes part of your skin. And then there is the noise. Silence does not exist here. The 1MC, the ship's public address system, is the voice of God. It clicks on at all hours, whistles, alarms, flight announcements, religious prayers, and orders. If you are sleeping 2 decks below the flight deck in the cheap seats, every catapult launch sounds like a sledgehammer hitting a metal trash can next to your ear. The arresting gear wires run through hydraulic engines right above your head, screaming like banshees every time a plane lands. Sleep is not a right here, it is a tactical victory. Civilian society is messy, but life on a carrier is strictly coded. If you walk onto the flight deck, the roof, you will see a rainbow of jerseys. This isn't a fashion choice. It is a visual language of survival. In a chaos of screaming jet engines, you can't hear orders, you have to see them. The purple shirts, known as grapes, wrestle heavy hoses pumping explosive fuel into hot jets. It is dirty, dangerous work that leaves them smelling like kerosene for weeks. The red shirts are the bomb loaders. They are literally strapping high explosives to the wings of aircraft while the engines are turning. They are the boom squad, treating laser-guided munitions with the casual respect a mechanic treats a tire. The green shirts are the mechanics, the grease monkeys who keep the catapults and arresting gear working. They crawl into the machinery that can crush a human body in milliseconds. And the yellow shirts are the directors, the bosses of the deck. When a yellow shirt points, you move. If you don't, you might get run over by a turning jet or blown overboard by exhaust that burns at 400 degrees. But the real hierarchy isn't just about shirt color. It's about rank and privilege, a caste system that would seem medieval to the outside world. Go down to the mess decks. The separation is brutal. The enlisted crew eats in a crowded, noisy hall waiting in long lines for cafeteria-style food on metal trays. The chief's senior non-commissioned officers who run the Navy have their own mess, the goat locker, with better chairs, coffee that is actually drinkable, and more respect. The officers eat in the wardroom. Here there are tablecloths. Stewards serve the food. It feels like a different world, a gentleman's club in the middle of a war zone. This class system might seem archaic to civilians, but on a warship, it is the glue that holds discipline together. When the alarm sounds for general quarters, there is no time for debate. There is only order and execution. And who does the dirty work? Meet the cranks. Every new sailor, regardless of their job, usually spends their first 90 days on the ship as a food service attendant. These are the cranks. They wash the dishes for 5,000 people. They scrub the floors. They haul the trash. They peel thousands of pounds of potatoes. It is a rite of passage. You might be a trained electronics technician, but for your first 3 months, your job is to clean grease traps. This humbles the crew and ensures that everyone understands that no job is beneath them. It builds a shared trauma that bonds the crew together forever. Let's zoom in on a ritual that happens every single day, regardless of war or peace. The FOD walk. Imagine stopping the most advanced military machine in history so that hundreds of people can walk in a line, staring at their feet like zombies. FOD stands for foreign object debris, a loose screw, a piece of wire, or a lost pen cap. If that tiny piece of metal gets sucked into a jet engine intake, it will shred the titanium turbine blades instantly. That is a $2 million mistake caused by a 10-cent piece of trash, so the crew lines up shoulder to shoulder. The air boss watches from the tower, screaming over the loudspeaker if anyone breaks the line, and they walk the entire length of the deck picking up microscopic trash. It is tedious. It is boring. But it is the perfect example of life on a carrier. High-tech warfare depends on low-tech discipline. The work shifts are brutal. A typical day for an aviation mechanic might start at 04:00 a.m. They spend 12 hours on the flight deck exposed to wind, rain, and blistering sun. Their uniforms are soaked in grease. Their hands are cut and bruised, and when the shift ends, they don't go home to a beer and a soft bed. They go to the gym or they study for their warfare qualifications. In the Navy, you aren't just a mechanic, you are also a firefighter. Every sailor on board is trained in damage control. Because if a fire breaks out at sea, there is no fire department coming to save you. You are the fire department. The fear of fire is primal. The USS Forrestal disaster in 1967 is burned into the Navy's memory. A fire on deck killed 134 sailors. Today, drills are constant. General quarters, fire in main machinery room 3. You wake up, pull on your flash gear, grab a hose, and run toward the danger while the ship is rocking. Now let's descend, past the hangar bay, past the sleeping quarters, down the knee knockers into the restricted zones. Here there is no sunlight, there is only the hum. This is the domain of the nukes, the nuclear engineers. The USS Eisenhower is powered by two A4W nuclear reactors. The specifics of their operation are classified top secret, but the physics are simple. Split the atom, create heat, boil water, spin the turbines. These reactors are terrifyingly powerful. They provide enough energy to push 100,000 tons of steel through the water at speeds that defy logic. The sailors working here live in a different reality. They wear thermoluminescent dosimeters on their belts to measure radiation exposure. They work in extreme heat. Engine rooms can reach 130 degrees Fahrenheit in the Persian Gulf. They are the guardians of the tea kettle. If they fail, the ship stops, or worse. There is a running joke that you can tell a nuke by how tired they look. Their training pipeline is the hardest in the military. They are mathematicians and physicists working with wrenches in a sauna. And here is a detail most people miss: the water. The ship makes its own water using flash evaporators powered by reactor steam. It can produce 400,000 gallons of fresh water a day. It's safe to drink, but old salts will tell you it has a taste. Sometimes, if the intake valves are too close to the fuel lines during a turn, the water tastes faintly of jet fuel. It's called JP5 on the rocks. You drink it anyway, you shower in it, you make coffee with it. Because out here you don't have a choice. And speaking of showers, they are a luxury. During peak operations or equipment failure, water hours are declared. The ship cuts off water to the showers. 5,000 people sweating in the heat, unable to bathe. The smell becomes a physical wall. We have talked about the machine, now we must talk about the mind. The hardest part of a modern deployment isn't the work, it is the connectivity or the lack of it. 20 years ago, you wrote a letter and waited a month for a reply. Today, the ship has Wi-Fi, sometimes. This creates a new kind of torture. You can almost talk to your family. You can see them online, but the bandwidth is throttled. You try to FaceTime your daughter on her birthday and the screen freezes. You see her crying, but you can't hear her. Then the connection drops, and then there is River City. This is the code phrase for a total communications blackout. When the ship is planning a strike or faces a security threat, the captain cuts the line. Suddenly, your phone is a brick, no email, no news. You are in the middle of the Red Sea, alarms are ringing, jets are launching with live warheads, and you cannot tell your wife you love her. You just have to do your job and hope the internet comes back on tomorrow. This isolation breeds a unique culture. Sailors develop a dark, twisted sense of humor. They roast each other relentlessly. They bond over shared misery. They create their own economy. A stash of good beef jerky or a hard drive full of new movies becomes incredibly valuable. They count the days. Every sailor knows exactly how many days are left until RTS, return to station. They scratch it on the walls of their bunks. 92 days and a wake-up. And mental health is the silent battle. The ship has chaplains and psychologists, but the stigma is real. Going to medical for stress can ground a pilot or disqualify a sailor from their duty. So many suffer in silence, staring at the steel ceiling of their rack, listening to the ocean rush by just a few inches of steel away. Let's look at the receipt for this operation. The cost of operating a carrier strike group is approximately $6 to $8 million per day. Every time an F-35 launches, it burns thousands of dollars in fuel just to get off the deck. If a pilot has to dump fuel to land safely because the plane is too heavy, they might spray $10,000 worth of kerosene into the atmosphere in seconds. The missiles. A single SM-2 missile fired to intercept a drone costs over $2 million. Recently, in the Red Sea, the Navy was firing $2 million missiles to shoot down $20,000 drones. The economic asymmetry is staggering. Critics call it a waste, but the Navy argues, what is the cost of not being there? If the shipping lanes close, the global economy collapses. The carrier is an insurance policy that costs billions, but the payout is global stability. But money is abstract. The physical toll on the equipment is real. This is the battle against corrosion. Saltwater is the enemy of steel. It eats everything. Every single day, teams of sailors are deployed with needle guns and scrapers to fight the rust. They chip away the corrosion, prime the metal, and paint it gray. It is a job that never ends. By the time they finish painting the ship from bow to stern, the bow is rusting again. The aircraft require freshwater washdowns constantly to prevent the salt from eating the delicate avionics. A carrier that isn't maintained will rot from the inside out within months. Medical care at sea is another miracle. The ship's medical department is a fully functioning trauma center. But imagine performing surgery during a storm. The surgeons have to strap themselves to the floor. The patient is strapped to the table. The instruments are magnetized or clamped down. If the ship takes a sudden roll, the scalpel doesn't move, but the doctor might. For minor issues, the mantra is Motrin and water. Got a broken foot, Motrin and water. Flu, Motrin and water. But for the serious stuff, the ability to stabilize a wounded sailor in the middle of nowhere is a testament to the training of the corpsmen, the Navy medics who are revered by the crew. Eventually, the mission ends. The ship turns west. The Tiger cruise begins where family members can sometimes join for the last leg of the journey. The rust is painted over one last time. The uniforms are pressed. When the Eisenhower finally pulls into Norfolk, Virginia, it looks majestic. The band is playing. The news cameras are rolling. The politicians are giving speeches about freedom and democracy. But look closely at the faces of the crew on the rails. They look older. They are thinner. Their eyes are scanning the crowd, looking for the people they haven't touched in 9 months. They have missed Christmases. They have missed funerals. They have missed the simple feeling of walking on grass. They have lived in the factory of violence. They have slept on top of nuclear reactors. They have caught airplanes in the dark. And tomorrow, after a brief rest, they will start fixing the ship to do it all over again. This is the reality of the Steel City. It is a marvel of engineering, a financial black hole, and a testament to human endurance. The United States Navy projects power not just through steel, but through the sheer willpower of these 5,000 souls. They endure the unendurable so that the world keeps turning. They do not do it for the money. A junior sailor makes less than a manager at a fast food joint. They do it for the person standing next to them. In the end, the carrier is not about the planes or the reactors. It is about the crew. It is a floating testament to what humans can survive when they have no other choice. If this deep dive into the gritty, expensive, and exhausting reality of naval warfare opened your eyes, you need to do 3 things right now. First, smash that like button. It tells the YouTube algorithm that real, in-depth documentaries still matter and helps us fund the next mission. Second, subscribe and ring the bell. We are currently working on a video about the darkest secrets of the Air Force that they don't want you to know, and you don't want to miss that. And finally, I have a challenge for you. We talked about the isolation. Imagine you are in that bunk in the dark and the internet cuts out for 3 months. Could you handle the silence, or would you crack? Tell me in the comments below. I could do it, or get me off that ship. I read every single comment. But if you think the surface is scary, you haven't seen true claustrophobia yet. You need to see what happens when the ship doesn't float but sinks on purpose. Click the video on your screen right now to enter the world of nuclear submarines. Trust me, the carrier is a paradise compared to what happens down there. Click it and I'll see you there.